So in this video, I'm going to convert this log splitter to work with my excavator. Now I only need the top rail, the splitter portion, and the hoses. So I'll be taking the top section off, making a mount for it to go on my excavator, and then using the hydraulic controls for the excavator to operate the cylinder to split the logs. For now, I'm just going to do a proof of concept, take off the parts that I don't need, bring the excavator over, and hopefully it connects right up and will operate the cylinder for the splitter. For that, I have some quick connects that I hope will adapt to these hoses, and this is the metal that I should be able to use to make the connector that'll go on the excavator. I had a terrible sore throat during the filming of this video and was even on antibiotics, but I wanted to get this project started. The weather was terrible and there was enough work that needed to be done indoors that I wanted to get a head start on it. But if my voice sounds a little bit off, that's why. Alright, so here it is with basically the whole lower section disconnected from the pump and the valve, and all we've got left are the hoses going straight to the quick disconnects that should fit right up on the excavator. Well, there it was, working just like I had hoped. The leak was just a fitting. I had completely forgotten to tighten. I realized it was only hand tight when I was checking on it. So that was an easy fix. Everything is working like it should. And so moving on to the next phase, which is removing this top section and this side shelf. And the top I-beam slider unit is just held on with a pin right there. And that's just a quick release pin because it does pivot up and down, and flipping it upside down and putting a connector on it that will be compatible with the quick connect on the excavator. Now I start making the parts for the quick connect that'll go on the excavator to actually be mounted and welded to the log splitter, and you'll see all those details as I go. I had seen this technique of cutting round stock on YouTube and wanted to give it a try, and it worked pretty well. So I'm sure everybody noticed that this was galvanized pipe and that you're not supposed to weld galvanized. So there's a couple ways to deal with that. One is to, just use fans and a respirator and go for it. Or what I've done in the past is just soak it in muriatic acid for a while. And so we're going to just coat this. So, if you see that zinc coating coming off, don't breathe these fumes either. That's really going. Give that a little bit of time and we should be down to clean metal. So it's getting a little later in the day, but I wanted to go over the plan in a little more detail. As you can see, the section that I need of the log splitter is only held in by this one pin right here. So we remove that, flip it over, and attach our adapter. And the way these adapters work, this is a tag quick attach coupling, also known as a Wayne-Roy coupling. And there's a hook that just goes into that opening, hooks the bar on the front, and then when it drops down, a pin comes through from the back, through that hole right there, and it just holds everything in place. So the muriatic acid's been working for a few minutes. It's looking pretty good. Gonna leave that a little bit longer. While that was cooking, I went ahead and disconnected the slide unit, the actual splitting unit, from the log splitter. And this is what I've got left. With the magic of hydraulics, I was able to just lift it off, flip it over, and drop it on the sawhorses, so it'll be ready to mount the quick attach to it when it's all welded up. So we're running out of daylight, but I wanted to give everybody a look at this pipe after the muriatic acid treatment. So I just got done rinsing it off really well. You can see what it looks like after that galvanized is taken off of it, and it's just a little damp now, but that of course will come right off when I weld on it. So we're back on the mini lathe, and for this part we need a flat spot. So I've got the 4-jawed chuck in, and we're just going to machine a flat spot on the one side. So when I did a test fit, I noticed that the piece that I had machined here was too large. There's a lip where it goes into the other half of the coupling. And so I've just got to make it a little bit smaller for it to work. So you might notice the stitches on the knuckle of my left hand. I had just gotten this 4-jawed chuck and actually bought it for this project because I knew I needed to make this spot on this round piece that I'm making now. And the bolts that mounted it to the lathe were a little bit too long, and in the process of shortening those bolts, my hand slipped, and in an instant I needed 5 stitches. So there it is. A little more work on the lathe and kind of made that shoulder so it fits into the other side of the coupler. The pin, I did a test fit, and the pin, everything is working out really well. So next is to fit it on and do a lot of welding. So this is one of the features that really drew us to this property. We really like this pond and waterfall, and my wife spent her Saturday cleaning it up because it doesn't look like this by accident. It does need a lot of maintenance. So we got a little unexpected shower coming through here today. So I was just getting this piece fitted up and kind of see how it meshes up into the quick connect on the excavator. Everything's lined up and clamped in place, and the connector I made over here is a little too tall. So I just need to get that in a better light. Grind that down on that flat edge a little bit more, get it at the right height, and then we can put it all into place. I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but this is might not be getting a whole lot done today out here unless this passes fairly quickly, because this is turning out to be kind of a hailstorm. And just a few minutes later, we got sunshine and blue skies, or blue and gray skies. But the thing they always say about Oregon weather is if you don't like it, just wait a few minutes, because it's going to change. And so while that storm was going through, I decided to put the piece on in the four-jawed chuck and take care of it, do it right, get it nice and flat. And as you can see, it just slips right into place there. So now just to tack it all in place, and we will be pretty much done with at least getting it all laid out. So it's starting to shape up. I've been just making sure everything is fully welded in. That piece looks like it's pretty solid. Got the few passes on this piece of pipe. Even from the inside I was able to reach, and now we're kind of getting down to the last section, which is attaching it to the splitter frame, and we'll see how it goes from there. Not too bad of a weld. This side is a little rougher. Didn't have as good a steady hand, but we'll go over that again. But for now, I want to give it a fit test. It's ready to try out. So I hadn't had any reason to disconnect and reconnect these hoses. The only thing I needed them for up to this point was the thumb on the excavator, and it turns out they are a royal pain to connect and disconnect. It took me way longer than it should have, but I did find a solution to this, and that is going to be the subject of a future video.
I think it's working.
So a trip to the store for a couple of hoses that are a little bit longer, and one of the quick connects on the excavator side didn't seal up properly. So I got a new set of those, pretty much everything I need to swap it over, and this should be the final set up for the hoses side and make it a little bit neater and cleaner. So it's another cold, rainy day, but moving forward with this project, there's a couple spots here that I just felt might not have the strength they need. You can see the weak point of this little arm coming through here, and especially on this one where I welded that on. So I'm going to take some of this 1x1 solid bar and weld it across just to make that a little more secure. So just as a last piece of reinforcement, I made up a couple small braces just to reinforce this round section. And those hopefully it may not even have been necessary, but I just feel better having a little bit of extra support there in case there's a lot of force against this round bar of the connector. Alright, those are the two top support braces. And not the prettiest welds in the world, but I think they'll hold, serve their purpose, and give that weak area a lot more support. So here I'm making a stand for it to just sit on while I connect and disconnect it, and when it's stored it'll just be sitting upright. Unfortunately, the stand did not work very well, so I will be working on a solution to that problem. So that foot is done. Got that end painted up, and yeah, let's see how it holds up. It may not. If it doesn't, I'll just have to do something else. And then you can see the bracket here from a little better angle. Ready to go. So the main reason for this project is I keep getting given or have wood that falls that is just too big to go on the sawmill. Or I'll have an end like this one that really can't do much with on the sawmill, and so I want to make it into firewood and use it that way, but they're just too big and heavy to lift onto a splitter. This section is going to be my first test with some bigger wood, and this log is about 35 inches in diameter and it's around 34 inches wide. So I've marked it out, and we're getting a little break in the weather today. It was snowing a little bit earlier, but we've got a few minutes here. Hopefully I can get this cut in half and ready for when the splitter is done and we can test it out using this. And you can see some of the bigger logs that I've got here that are just a little bit on the side of being too big for the mill or just not in good condition. This was an oak tree that just fell. Do some more video on this one, but it just fell out of the blue in the backyard, and you can see it's a really nice piece of oak. So a lot of this in this section I'm hoping to mill up. A lot will be firewood. You know, that pile's been sitting for about 3 years over there and drying, and I pull out of it every now and then. But that's the reason we're doing this. Alright, so that's it for the foot structure. Just kind of used what I had and made it work. This is actually the bottom, so those are the feet that'll go on the ground. Just has one leg at the front because I mainly wanted to make sure I didn't have anything in the way while I was splitting. So I was really hoping to test out the splitter today, but as of now, it doesn't look like it's going to happen.
That didn't work.
So that was a successful test. All of these pieces are now easily able to be finished by hand with the other log splitter. But there are some issues with the position, mainly of the hoses, that I want to change, and the stand is just not stable enough, so I think I need to add another leg or move the leg on it. But other than that, it went well. So it's a pretty dreary day here, but I decided to continue on with this project. I felt that the splitting was definitely a success, but I've got a few modifications I want to make to just clear up some issues, make the system even better. But before I did that, I wanted to give you an idea of if this was worthwhile, because those were 2 rounds, just 2 rounds from logs that were just too big for me to manage manually and get up onto the splitter. But after splitting all these and stacking them, I took some measurements, and I got almost exactly 32 cubic feet. So there's about 27 cubic feet that actually fit on the first rack, and then the little bit that was left on the ground I just finished stacking and just measured the new stuff that I stacked on there, and that was about another 5. So that gave me 32 cubic feet, which is exactly a quarter of a cord. So 2 rounds gave us a quarter of a cord, and to give that perspective, we burn about 1 of these racks a week. So just 1 of these will give us a week's worth of heat. And so yeah, I mean, didn't take very long. Got some exercise. The equipment did all of the heavy lifting, which is what I wanted, so I didn't have to manage those big rounds by myself. And we actually have a little bit more than a week's worth of wood here to heat our home.